Marston's Domain.
Hey everyone, Marson here, and today I want to talk about announcing games too early, because we gotta talk about this. Mainly, the best two examples that are going on right now, and have been going on for a while because they were announced way too early, and those examples would be Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4. Now, I understand that to some degree, it makes sense to announce something early, to get a lot of hype around it, and to build things up, and anticipation, everything. But there comes a point where I feel like the game companies should know that it is just way too early to do this. Now, there are things out of everyone's control that sometimes just happen. And I think with Metroid Prime 4, I have a feeling that a lot of that went on. I think that they had assumed that they'd be a lot further along and that things would be going smoother. Well, obviously they thought things would be going smoother. I mean, they switched from who they were working with and everything. So I think with that game, they had to have assumed that they'd be further along. But at the same time, I think that might have been a title where they also risked it. And they said, let's just announce this now. We're gonna make it, so let's get people on board and start this hype train now. So people will start talking about it, and then when the game comes out, you know, or as trailers come out and everything, people can get even more excited and more on board. Because Metroid isn't their top-selling game. And I feel like every time I say that, I have to also say this with it. That is no disrespect to the Metroid series. I would argue that most Metroid fans would go, yeah, some of them sell well and some of them don't. It's not like where it's Mario and Zelda where they just can plop one out and it's almost always one of the top selling games for whatever console it is. So it's not that they do bad, but it's not their biggest seller. So for them to announce it this early, I feel like they did it because it was like, all right, let's really try to push Metroid, because Metroid Prime is regarded as one of the best video games ever made. So let's try to really push this and put Metroid back on the map, because they've spent a lot of years with no Metroid games. Samus Returns, I believe, did very well and was well received. So they're starting the train to get back going, but I think Metroid Prime 4 was gonna be the big, here's Metroid, this is a beefy game, let's get the fans back into this series, let's push the series back to where it was, let's just go for it. And then we got nothing. And what happens with that is that, in my opinion, I think what happens with that is that you get people who saw that initial direct with that logo, who didn't know much about Metroid, or maybe heard a little bit about Metroid, you know, just kind of like, oh yeah, there's that Samus character, those types of people. I feel like they, at that time, were semi-interested in, oh, there's a new one coming out? That's cool. And just having that in their brain, if they release a trailer within, I don't know, 3-6 months, they'll go, oh yeah, that was that one game. And then slowly, those types of fans can come on board to the Metroid hype train and be like, I can't wait for this game. And I think by having all these delays, almost all those people, they don't even remotely remember that there's supposed to be a new Metroid game. And that's one thing that I'd like people to keep in mind, is that a lot of us follow Nintendo very, very closely. Not everyone does that. So for some people to be like, well, how do they not remember that Metroid's coming out? I mean, we know it's coming out, blah, blah, blah. Not everyone follows Nintendo that closely. So someone who watched that initial direct, they may not be watching every single thing that comes out from Nintendo. So for them to see that one direct, and then they just buy, you know, whatever's coming out and stuff like that, they're not going to have Metroid on the top of their mind, especially if it's not a series that they're super, super into. Nintendo almost has to kind of push to get those people to want to be like, whoa, I'm on board for this. This looks cool. So the more time that they just announce a game and then say nothing about it, this is what happens. But then you have a game like Bayonetta 3, where it's also frustrating, but I think a game like Bayonetta 3 will actually be fine with this type of delay. Because there's two differences here. One, we at least got some sort of teaser. We had something to actually watch. Metroid Prime 4 was legitimately just the logo. That was it. And it was like, hey, this game's coming out. We didn't even have anything to sink our teeth in. We didn't have anything to analyze. It was just, yep, here's the logo. Ta-da! But with Bayonetta 3, we at least got the teaser. So it's like, all right, we have something to dive into, something to look at. I mean, it wasn't anything super long, but it was a teaser, so we got something. But the other point that I would argue with Bayonetta 3 is that, which I feel like people can make the same argument with Metroid, but I'm going to explain how I think it's a little bit different. I feel like Bayonetta already has its fan base. I don't know if you'd call it niche, but it has its fan base. And I feel like with Platinum Games, they know this, and they know that whenever they release it, it'll do a minimum amount, and then depending on how much promotion and stuff they do with it, it'll do more. And I think that's where it probably would have done better advertising-wise if, yeah, it wasn't delayed this long after the unveil at the Game Awards. But I think it's a game that will survive just fine at that bare minimum, no matter how long they take. And the reason why I think this is a little bit different from Metroid is that Nintendo is a huge company, and Metroid is one of their main IPs. So I feel like with the lacking sales of some of the later Metroid titles, which again, that's not throwing any disrespect to the series, you can go look them up. They're not that good. I think because of that, they know they need to hit this out of the park and be like, this is a return to the 3D Metroid games, and you're gonna freaking love it, and it's gonna be amazing, and hopefully they add online multiplayer, and it's gonna be an amazing game. And they know that they have to nail this, which they already did a good job with Samus Returns from what I know. So if they nail this one, then it's like Metroid's back, Metroid's here to stay. The problem with stuff like this, and why I think it's a bigger deal than Bayonetta 3, is because they could just stop at Bayonetta 3. I don't know how long they're going to go with Bayonetta, but Bayonetta 3 could just be the last one. I don't know. With Metroid, it's been a long-running series for Nintendo, and when it comes to being a company, if your series isn't doing that well, how much motivation do you have to make more of that game if you can't seem to get people on board with it? And that's just the sad reality of us liking all sorts of different things, because eventually one of them is probably going to go, unless if all the stuff you like is super successful. And I think that's been the sad fate for F-Zero, which that'll be a whole nother video. So I think with Metroid, it's getting to the point where I hope that they are getting really prepared to kind of line things up to get more people on board again, because I think they had people on board. When they showed off that logo, it was all over the place. I mean, I don't have, exact stats, but I remember people going pretty crazy about that. And now all of that is gone. It's all gone. It happened way too long ago. Not all those same people are going, oh yeah, that Metroid game? Yeah, I can't wait to see what that actually is. That would be the thought process of someone who's not that big into Metroid. Those people are gone. Why would they still be like, oh my gosh, dude, I can't wait to see it? They're not into Metroid. That's the problem with taking this long. I think it's actually a decently big deal. I think it really does affect marketing and advertising for a series like this, for a series that they want to bring back into the limelight. And I thought it was super interesting that Nintendo straight up came out and was just like, hey, yeah, this game is taking a long time. We know it. Yeah, stuff's been going on, and here's your update. I was shocked they did that. I was really impressed that they did that, and I thought it was the right thing to do, because not only are they losing the people that aren't too into Metroid, they're also starting to piss off hardcore fans, because they're like, whoa, like, what is going on? Where is the game? Where is it? Hello? The only thing with that is that hardcore fans, they're going to be there. So Nintendo releasing that video was more or less being like, hey, we know you hardcore fans are still waiting for this game. We're sorry. So it was really good for them to do that, I think. But now with all these rumors going on about the Metroid Prime trilogy, I hope that they have things more in line to release and advertise. Because to me, them making this Metroid Prime trilogy remake thing, if the rumor's true, which I think it is, then I would hope that that goes in line with maybe a trailer for Metroid Prime 4, maybe a date for when we're getting news on Metroid Prime 4. I would hope that there's something, because that's how, in my opinion, they could quote-unquote save this whole thing. And the reason why I say quote-unquote save is because it is Metroid, and I highly doubt it's going to do abysmal. I think that Nintendo is doing really, really well right now, and I mean, not even think, they are doing very, very well. So I don't really think they're going to release a game as big as that and it not sell in at least the millions. But the reason why I still say save is because I still think this game can do even better if they nail how they advertise it and how they market it. They could do the Metroid Prime trilogy and then be like, hey, this is also a part of this game that's coming out. Here you go. Here's a first look at it. Ooh, it looks super good, right? Okay, well now you can also try the first 3 games on the Switch, which everyone pretty much owns. Yep, we're getting you hyped. We're getting you hyped. That's how they could still do this. And it would negate the entire thing that happened with them announcing this game way too early and showing absolutely nothing, in my opinion. So I hope that they don't just release this Metroid Prime Trilogy remaster thing and then say nothing about the new game. Because that's how, in my opinion, you mess that up. Because again, why would someone who has no interest in Metroid just randomly decide to play this older game? They could. They definitely could. I'm not saying that no one will. But you gotta add that little spice. You gotta add some flair. You gotta be like, hey, we're doing this, but this also goes in line with this new flashy game we're releasing. And then I think a lot of people would go, whoa, this looks incredible. Let me try out this series. So I think that this whole announcing games too early thing, I think in some ways it can help, but I think it can only help if you already have everything else in place and in line. Because what's going on with Metroid and Bayonetta right now is pretty ridiculous. We heard about the games so long ago, and we have gotten nothing besides a few updates. No game footage, nothing. Bayonetta 3, we at least got the teaser, but since then, nothing. So I just wanted to talk about this. I thought it'd be an interesting topic. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about all this. If you enjoyed this and want to support more content, feel free to subscribe. And until next time, I'll see y'all later. Take care, everyone.